Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us for episode 125 for the Endless Celts Podcast. I hope you're enjoying this absolutely glorious bit biling weather. Keeping yourself safe and hydrated. Obviously, I'm John. You'll know me by now, hopefully. I'll be hosting the day along with Francis. Ross, how you boys doing?
All good, mate. Very, very tired after my escapades yesterday at Jerry Cinnamon. And then I was away to Burnt Island today, so I've no stopped. But been a good couple of days.
You'll be glad for the rest, mate. What about you, Franny?
Oh, aye.
Not bad. I was up at St Ange's yesterday at the golf, John. Wee bit tired as well, just being in the nice weather, but maybe not as tired as Ross. He's obviously suffering from maybe a wee bit of the alcohol in that as well. I was unfortunately driving, so
I'll tell you, see if I had £1 for every time I banged my knee off the seat in front, I wouldn't need to do this podcast.
I will. Dave Goldie, see if he ever pops up in the comments, he'll get a mouthful for me. I've managed to sort him out with a ticket for the golf, and I bumped into him and he had a great idea, a great location to watch the winning putts and everything come in. We were behind a Harris fencing with boarding all it. We've seen bugger all. I've never seen the winning putt or anything.
Ideal.
I just want to say as well, everybody in the chat who's joining in, commenting and everything else, thanks for tuning in. Everybody, hello everybody, hello. I'm trying to get through as many comments as possible.
Stop saying hello.
I'm trying to get through as many comments as possible. But let's do want to kick things off. Obviously, at the weekend there, we had a friendly game against Blackburn, who we've got a bit of history with, and by all accounts, quite a decent game, a good run out. Started with a pretty strong starting 11. As close to a first team as we could potentially get, with Starfelt being out and Welsh taking his place, and maybe Hattati instead of Turnbull. But just coming to you first, Francis. Just initially, what was your thoughts when you seen the lineup? Did you think we were treating it like a friendly, or was it you thinking we were going to take this like quite a competitive game?
I think just because we've only got like now two friendlies left, I think, before league campaign. I was the type of lineup I was expecting. You've got to get the starting 11 a wee bit stronger, and I think as well, obviously, Wednesday's game will be maybe of a similar sort of standard. Then obviously Saturday again, I think it'll be a lot of the first team players. Not obviously expect them to play the full 90, maybe 50, 60 minutes and stuff. So I think it'll just be about getting guys that have got to be more the first team type players, just get them up to speed. So it was the type of lineup I expected, John, to be honest with you. So I just think the next sort of 3 games will be of a similar sort of standard in the lineup.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. What about yourself, Ross? Did you think it was going to be, we were going to treat it like more like a competitive fixture, or did you see it as just another run
out? Essentially, it's another run out, but like Franny says, it's getting closer to that first game of the season against Aberdeen. It's back at Parkhead. It's against a better team again than what we've faced, probably, on paper. So I expected it to be as strong as possible. Welsh was in there. It's maybe telling for Julian when you look at it in the face. I still think Julian's a good player, but
we might get to that shortly.
Well, looking at it, it looks like if Starfelt's out, then obviously Welsh could possibly have the jersey, but I don't know. Time will tell. But it was a good run out. Played at a good pace, but a competitive match certainly, and Blackburn weren't holding back.
Absolutely not. And if the way they started the match is anything to go by, it set the pace for the rest of the game. 20 seconds in, I think we were a goal down. I don't know. Was it O'Reilly that attempted to pass it back to McGregor? I think it was O'Reilly, but he hit it like a volley. and Calmac obviously couldn't control it. They obviously then got through and slotted home 20 seconds in. Did you think, Ross, first of all, when they scored that early on, did you see that as like a bit of a shock? Were you thinking this was a sign of things to come, or were you just confident that we'd settle down and get back?
Well, I mean, any goal in the first 30 seconds of a match is a shock, you would have to say, but it was one of the ones. It was the game's just started. There's an early mistake. Sometimes the opposing team, they'll pounce on it, and because it's early, they don't take advantage of it. But this time they did. I think, obviously, like you say, O'Reilly sort of fizzed it into McGregor and nothing he could do with it, really. And then at that point, from that point on, the defence was sort of all over the place. They weren't set. Juranovic let his man go. He got through and he took it. The boy took the goal well, to be fair. But I don't think that. I mean, again, it's a friendly. You're never overly worried anyway. You're quite relaxed because it's just getting the boys up to speed. But it's like when they went 1 down at Ibrox. I wasn't panicked. I thought that like they're enough going forward, and to me, on the face of it, Celtic are probably a better team in Blackburn. And I think that 2-2 didn't tell the full story of the match. I thought Celtic controlled the match. They lost that goal, I thought they controlled the match with pretty much then to the end. And the second half, they lost a bit of cohesion. There was a lot of substitutions. It happens in these friendlies. They just didn't. They still controlled the match, but they didn't sort of get the cohesion of the first half where they got their noses in front and then they let Blackburn into it. It's not a big deal. But like I say, the 2-2 didn't reflect the match for me, and I thought once again we looked going forward absolute dynamite at times.
Yeah. I feel like you that, Francis. Anything you want to add to that quickly before we move on to the goals themselves?
No, I think it's pretty much summed it up all right. It was like the first goal. I think from a Blackburn point of view, you could say it was good play for them because they pressed the ball really well and stuff and won it back well. Like Ross said, it's just you can get caught cold in the first minute of a game and stuff. They rarely do happen, but they can happen. But I think after that we did control the match, and going into the second half, like Ross said, when you make that amount of substitutions and stuff, it tends to happen in a game, especially. That's when the friendly sort of aspect of a game sort of kicks in, because sometimes you're maybe shoehorning players into a position, just putting players into a position just to get minutes in their legs, like guys are maybe playing, well, not really comfy playing. So, but I was still controlled the game for the majority of it, and like we said there as well, like the 2-2, the draw, like the result is not really the key thing here. It's the nature of the performance. I mean, I'd say or a different group chat with me, Ross and Pete, I was like, I appreciate obviously your team this season compared to last season's absolute night and day. But last season, if you go on results alone, our pre-season wasn't great last season, so I'm not paying too much attention to the results this season. I'll happily have not the greatest results in pre-season if we win the league every year. So it's more the performance that you look at in these friendlies for me. It's not the results aren't the main thing really.
Just before we get into it as well, because obviously they scored very early on and they pressed us immediately for the first whistle. It was a bad. I mean, they got a lucky break because it was a bad pass back, and Callum McGregor was like nobody is controlling that with the sort of pace that O'Reilly hit it with. But is it a concern that we're kind of opening ourselves up to that kind of early sort of like? It seems at least in this pre-season, and we've seen it in other games in the past. That Celtic, for the first maybe opening 5-10 minutes, struggle to find their feet a wee bit and settle into the tempo of the game or grab the game by the neck, so to speak. Would you agree with that sentiment? Or do you think it's something that was just a one-off?
You talking to me there?
Did I not say it? I thought I said Ross.
Maybe you did. I don't know. Maybe you did. Well, certainly in that game, in the Bannock Ostrava game, I'm pretty sure we went down 1-0 in both games. And I think I said in the group chat in the Bannock Ostrava game, or it might have been I can't remember what game it was, but I said in the chat that we need to start better. And obviously you do, because you don't want to keep going into games and going 1 down. You want to get a foothold in the game and go one in front, obviously. But it's not a massive concern for me. Again, it's friendlies. I think they'll probably, when they're playing a more competitive game, their heads will be in it more and they'll be concentrated for minute one. So it's not a massive concern, but it has happened in the last 2 games. So there is something there, possibly.
And what about yourself, Francis? Do you feel like going into a season where this is pretty much the only prep we've got prior to Champions League football, again, group stages, and the draw hasn't been done yet, but the calibre of teams we're going to be up against are teams that are going to be at our throats for the whistle as well. We're used to, obviously, teams sitting back against us. and that's not going to be the case. Do you think that no being able to sort of settle into the game is going to cost us in these European games?
I'm not so sure, because I think that type of thing can happen any game at any level. You can just get caught cold. I think, like Ross touched on there, I think you're hoping anyway when it gets to a competitive match, players will be a wee bit more switched on. They're maybe just being a friendly, just maybe not right at it, not at it for minute one essentially. But I reckon if it's happening in competitive games, I would be more concerned. It's pre-season games. It's one of them. You kind of, it's not great to see, but you almost let it slide, so to speak. But if it was happening more in competitive games on, I would start getting concerned, but not so much in pre-season friendlies. And I just think in general that type of thing can happen at any level at any game.
What I would say is, though, that it's evident that Ange is looking to probably address that, and the fact that he's looking at a midfielder who has got very good ball retention. Mr. Moy.
We'll get to that just shortly. I'll ask you to elaborate on this further just shortly, Ross. I want to touch on, like, as I said, the game itself. Obviously, we went down a goal 20 seconds in, and it did the first maybe 5 or 10 minutes of that game, as you alluded to, was a wee bit shaky for us, but we were kind of trying to find our feet. But once, maybe about 10 minutes into the game, once we got a hold of it, once we started to dictate the tempo, and then we started to press Blackburn, and I think that the rest of that half we were in control. Obviously, the equalising goal to bring us back into it was a well taken finish. Was it 15 minutes or so into the first half? Was Jota scored that sort of half volley? What did you make of the sort of the build up to that goal and the goal itself, Ross?
The build up, I can't really make. It was fair corner, I'm sure, and obviously the corner. I don't know how they won the corner, but the corner comes in. Kyogo, no very big, obviously, but he wins a header, and we score for a set piece. Essentially, he knocks it down, and Jota just does what Jota does. He takes that with just pure class. It's a classy finish, because he has to. He catches it in the half volley, but not only does he catch it in the half volley, he has to cut across it to get it in to that far corner. So it's a very deliberate finish in the sense that he's cut across it to get it away from the keeper. It was a tremendous finish and a really good goal. And like you say, that just, I think we were getting a foothold in the game, but that just pushed us on. And the press, it was brilliant in that first half, and the way, like, they won the ball back, and then, like, the movement, it's constant. The movement, whoever's got the ball, there's 3 or 4 guys, and they're all going into space. They're all looking for the ball. Everybody wants the ball. It's just brilliant to watch, and they're all constant and taking the ball in the half turn. It's really, really good going forward. But defence is there's still moments, but it's pre-season. And obviously the partnership of Carter Vickers and Starfelt has been brought up, which will no help. But all in all, certainly the first half going forward was tremendous.
I feel like, I think barring the early goal, I think we showed complete control and dominance in that first half. Just again touching on that first goal, Francis, you obviously, as I say, it came in the build-up play to get the corner. I thought we was really, really well. I'm sure it was a effort by Turnbull, I think, that was maybe turned away. I might be wrong, but I seem to recall. Obviously, it came for the corner, and as Ross pointed out, the intent was there. He knew exactly what he was doing and where he was aiming for, and he took it really well, and that sort of put us. Obviously, they equalised, and we got a foothold in that game. Did you think that was a turning point itself, and we started to push on for there?
I think slightly, John, because we were obviously pressing the ball high up again and winning it back, but obviously the goal gives you a wee bit of confidence just to kick on, and certainly after that we certainly seemed to be really, really in control. I thought O'Reilly was brilliant on Saturday. He was winning. I thought he was winning the ball back quite high up the park a lot of times. Jota just looked on right up for it. Abada, I thought, looked. His wingers are a kind of confidence player, but he looked fully confident. Turnbull, I thought, was Tubble actually performed really good. He was looking good. There was not many, like, going forward, our attacking options and attacking players really performed and looked sharp and stuff. So it was good seeing. Obviously, I know it's not a competitive goal, but guys like Jota and stuff like that. There we go, coordination.
Fucking unbelievable, man.
Obviously, the attackers kind of getting their campaign off with like scoring goals. Obviously, not competitive goals, but it will give them a wee bit of confidence just to kick on, John. So it was pleasing to see how players like Jota and Abada look like. Even and O'Reilly just look like they're maybe taking their game a wee bit because I was really impressed by O'Reilly. Looked a lot stronger and a lot quicker. I mean, that could be down to Blackburn. I don't know where they're in their pre-season. They maybe just a wee bit off the pace.
No, I would agree with that.
Some performances I was impressed with. They looked like they'd maybe taken themselves up a wee notch or two.
Yeah, no, I mean, I certainly agree with the O'Reilly thing. He looks bigger, like compared to. I mean, he's training and everything else, but he like he says, there's a few guys that seem to be coming on, and I think that, I mean, I said this previously. O'Reilly for me is going to be up there or in contention for Player of the Year this year. I think he's going to be starting for us now on every game, as far as I'm concerned. But you're right. I mean, some of the guys had great games. Turnbull really, really well. I think everybody in that first half who started played really, really well. Barring the mistake of the first goal, we seemed to have control of it. There was never really any doubt. We weren't even really under any real pressure for that 45 minutes. But obviously, we get into half time, 1-1, and then there's the whole raft of changes made. Ange brings in, chops and changes the lineup a wee bit, and then we start to see a different game in the second half. It's a little bit more tense. But Siegrist shows his worth instantly and starts pulling off a couple of cracking saves, Ross. What was your opinion? Firstly, I want to ask, were you surprised at the omission of Giacomakis?
No surprise, no. I think it's going to chop and change between the two. We've all said, well, I've not said personally, but a lot of the boys have said that they would like to see two. Even the boys in the comments and that have said they would like to see Giacomakis and Kyogo play up front together. It's not something I'd be adverse to, but I don't think Ange is going to do it. It's going to be one or the other going forward. I don't think Kyogo. I think you lose a lot when he's out in the left. I don't see him playing out there. It might happen if there's like a lot of injuries, but if we've got other options, I don't see him playing out there, and it's going to go between him and Giacomakis. I think, just on Ange personally, I think he maybe prefers Kyogo. I mean, I don't have a preference. I love Giacomakis. I think what he brings to the team, and I know Kyogo is the obvious one to love and thinks the best, and I don't think there's much between them. I think they bring different qualities. But I just love the and I know I keep going to say I love like Giacomakis' enthusiasm for the game, but then Kyogo's enthusiasm for the game is infectious as well. It's that we're just blessed to have the two of them right now, and it's one of the ones. Whoever plays, they're going to do a job for us, and that bodes well for us this season.
Aye, fair point. Alistair had pointed out as well that we were up actually 2-1 at half time. Turnbull's free kick. Touching it quickly, what did you think of the free kick itself? Do you think that Turnbull's maybe got a role to play in terms of, because for me, I think that one of the things we've been missing last season was a sort of a bona fide or like a regular set piece taker. I don't think there's anybody, maybe other than Turnbull. I've not seen much of O'Reilly, to be honest. I can't really comment, but we've no got a deadly, like a threat for set pieces for me. Those sort of indirect free kick. Do you think Turnbull's maybe the guy to take us forward in that respect? And do you think he took that goal well?
Was it not deflection? I mean, it's a decent strike. I can't remember if it was a deflection or not, but
it was.
He has got a great striker, and he scored plenty of good goals. But I can't remember him really scoring many free kicks.
Sorry, can I just say the point out as well that Giacomakis was at his baby's birth?
Oh, was it? I didn't realise that.
No.
Congratulations, big man. Welcome to
Alistair and Stephen, the Stalkers.
I know. Genuinely didn't know that. I thought maybe he was just being rested in it. But like I says, anyway, sorry for anyone. What are you saying?
No, I don't know if he's. I mean, there's nobody really a standout candidate. So you're as well as maybe giving him a go. We know he can strike the ball clean enough. So you're as well as give him a go. But I'm not. I don't know, John. Honestly, I don't know the answer to that. But it's like you say, we've not had anybody that Griffiths to an extent was pretty good at free kicks, but like I've really struggled to pick out anybody that you could really hang your hat on that you thought was going to work the keeper for a long time.
Juranovic tried to be the man most of last season, but this didn't happen for me.
No.
I think for penalties, Juranovic certainly seems like the obvious choice. But
by the way, I'm going to go for 2 seconds to shut the doors because I can tell what time it is by this glare in the sun, man.
The sundial. But like I say, for me, that we seem to be missing a serious sort of threat for set pieces, Ross. And it's something that I was hoping maybe it would be as somebody that maybe Ange was looking at, or somebody that would be signing somebody with that sort of caliber. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I don't think you can just go out and try and sign just a player just if he's good at free kicks. Do you know what I mean? He needs to have an all-round game. So it would be nice to have somebody like a Nakamura who's a dead ball specialist and has the qualities to be an impact in the team throughout the game. But I think at the moment in the squad, I think probably you would have to say Turnbull is the best set piece taker, and I think it sort of was evident the fact that O'Reilly and I think it was maybe McGregor was kind of hovering over it, and he took it, and he scored it. It was a deflection. It was a decent strike, I think. And the problem being as well, I really like Turnbull. I wouldn't sell him. Is he going to be in that first choice 3, if you like, in the middle of the park? At the moment, probably not. I think you're probably looking at McGregor, Hatate, and O'Reilly. But he'll certainly play his part. And when he is on the field, he'll take a free kick here and there, and he'll maybe get us a goal. Is Aaron Moya an expert in set pieces? If he is,
judging by his goal scoring record, I'm not impressed. Then, if that's an expert, you should be scoring more goals.
I've never seen him scoring a free kick when he was at Huddersfield, to be honest with you. I don't know. Maybe the guy, I don't know who commented there, sorry, but I don't know. Maybe he knows more than me. A lot of guys commenting, they know more than me.
Well, listen, we'll get on to the Moy thing that seems to be splitting Celtic fans down the middle just shortly. But I wanted to, obviously, as I said, thanks for correcting me as well, Alistair. Going into the second half, 2-1 up. Made a raft of changes, as we touched on. You'd already alluded to. The game sort of changed in that respect. Francis, just coming to you. When we made those changes and Blackburn started to get sort of come into the game a little bit more, one of the first things that happened was Gucci had a pass back, and I want to talk about Julian for a second here, right? we knew this was coming. He was lambasted on Twitter for being the reason that goal, we conceded that goal, and first and foremost, that's not the case. But Gucci's pass back was very, very poor. And obviously, Julian's went to go and gather the ball, and the guys came and nicked it, and he's conceded the free kick, which they ultimately scored for. For me, though, in that second half, there was a couple of players that kind of never had great games, but there was like Gucci didn't seem to really get a foothold in the game. He didn't seem to get up to speed. Was there any other players, Francis, that you felt in the second half were kind of off the pace a bit?
I think you're right in that Gucci. It's also been hard for him. He's kind of maybe suffering from the performances of Maeda, Hatate and Kyogo. Everybody's expecting him just to be at that level, but he maybe just
Ross is fucking bailing.
But he maybe just needs to. He's just got to take longer. Maybe like I don't think anyone would have complained if the other three actually like, took 60 sort of a 10 months to actually get up to speed and get used to the league. So maybe at the Gucci, even though he's already been over and tried it at Leeds and stuff, it might just take some time to get up to it. I thought Boston Lowell, he looked a long way off being a regular in the first team. I thought he wanted too much time in the ball and stuff. It looks a big presence, maybe got a bit about it, but it just looked way off where we'd need to be. Julian, was that unimpressed? I wouldn't say I was impressed or unimpressed with him. I think obviously the one where he gets a slack back pass, if he's not got a future, he's probably not got to go full hearted into that challenge on the back end, knowing he's already knackered his knee. So he's maybe thinking, if I go in here like a big full challenge, get a sore one, I'm stuck in the sidelines again for maybe a long spell. And he's maybe obviously lining up a move out to Celtic. Hopefully not, but it's like Ross touched on earlier. It's the signs from the outside looking in. It looks like Ange doesn't fancy him for whatever reason. None of us will really know that, but it looks like Welsh is ahead of him. But I would say more like the sort of guys that we class on the fringe, like your Gucci's didn't really impress me. Boston Law was looking forward to seeing him, but didn't impress me. Urigi, I thought again just looks raw, but Bernabeu looked great going forward, but I was a wee bit concerned. I thought he got caught up the park too much. He was caught out of position so that again obviously need to be worked on. But I think it was more sort of for the second half substitutions. Just I felt they were the ones that kind of struggled, and I don't know if struggles right, but they weren't as impressive as I thought they were going to be.
What about yourself, Ross? Did you think, was there any players specifically that you felt were kind of off the pace, or any standouts in particular?
Not particularly. I'm a bit loath to sort of knock any of the players that came on, because you come into a game, there's 5 substitutions, it completely changes the team. They're trying to get up to pace in the game. Again, it happens in friendlies. Gucci, he didn't have his best game, or obviously he's looked all right in spells in other games he's played, but he was at fault. I don't know how anybody on Twitter can say that was Julian's fault. If you're saying that's Julian's fault, then you can absolutely nothing about football. The ball's been fired into him. He's had to run to try and get there. It's no getting to Julian, and he tries to sort of if you can,
it's not like
you can blame Julian for that. If you've got to blame Julian for that, you'd as well just stop watching football, because there's no point for you. But it wasn't his fault. Julian, he done okay. He didn't make any glaring mistakes. He didn't do anything brilliant. Lowell, like Franny said, I'd said in the chat on Saturday, I think he wanted far too much time in the ball. I mean, I'm not saying that he's not going to make it at Celtic or anything like that, but I think you'll probably find that he'll have another season in the B team, barring injuries to first team players. I think he's just still a bit raw. But I wouldn't like to knock him, as I say, because it's difficult coming into these games and getting up to the pace, especially when there's so many guys coming on at the one time, and then definitely throughout the half changing.
I would agree with that as well. I think that, like I said, we shouldn't take far too many Celtic fans take way too much stock in friendlies. I know you want to perform and you want to see players perform, because you're starting to, especially in the latter half of your sort of pre-season, where you're starting to, players have got the minutes in their legs. You're starting to see maybe Ange start settling on a mere first 11, so to speak. And you want to make sure that they're performing, which I think we've done in the first half. Were superb as far as I'm concerned. When we made all the changes in the second half, obviously things differed. Like you mentioned there, Julian was absolutely not at fault. I know Gucci, he caught him short because the pass was poor. Bosun Lawal was another one I thought who was absolutely shocking when he came on. Like I said, I try not to take too much stock. I mean, he's a young guy. He's just came into the team, but he was really, really poor. And I don't know what he was doing, but he spent far too much time on the ball.
I think the positive thing for that lot, at least he never ever hit it. He always taken the ball in, but he just wanted too much time on it. So I think that's one plus I would take out. He never, obviously, he was getting caught out a couple of times, but he still always wanted the ball.
He was picking the wrong pass, and we weren't able to play through Blackburn's press then, because he kept picking the wrong pass and putting his teammates and the team under pressure then. And then if he did make the pass, that's what was happening. But then at times he wasn't even making the pass because it was getting intercepted or he was getting tackled. It was a poor performance, but he's young.
Yeah, like I said, you don't take too much stock in it, especially younger guys coming in, as you said. But by all accounts, it was poor. And when you see these young guys come in and they're playing against a better or a higher caliber opposition, and you're seeing these mistakes, it kind of fills you with a wee bit doubt if whether or not he's ready. Because I know he seemed favoured at least this pre-season. He's had chances and he's had minutes. But ultimately, for me, it didn't impress. Another guy that did impress, though, was Ralston, again, and absolutely phenomenal. And I think that Juranovic has really got a fight this season in terms of that right-back position, because Ralston, again, he's proven that he's come on leaps and bounds since we last seen him. And I think his goals and assist ratio is much higher than Juranovic's as well. Do you think he's actually got a case to be starting, Ross?
Again, it's I think it's similar all over the park, like Kyogo and Giacomakis, like Turnbull and O'Reilly. I think we're almost at a stage now where we've got two for each position, and whoever comes in is going to do the job well. I think that, again, I repeat myself and say that will be playing the fixture. I think that's why he has two for each position. I think, again, similar to last season, I think you'll see Ralston come in for quite a few of the away games, certainly off the back of the European nights. I think you'll find that Juranovic will play in the games most likely. I still think he's first choice. I still think he's better than Ralston. Trust him more. But certainly Ralston's got that physicality. If you're going up to Dingwall, places like that, you need that, and he can get you a goal like he did. He popped up in the last minute. You know what I mean? 97th minute. He popped up then, got a massive goal in the context of the season. I think you'll find that he'll play in games like that just purely for his physicality. But for me, I think Juranovic still has the edge. I think sometimes in Europe, Ralston looks like he's out his depth a wee bit. Certainly in a positional sense, he struggles for me, and I just think that Juranovic is an all-round better player. But that's no shame on Ralston. Do you know what I mean? Because he's done brilliant. But Juranovic is a Croatian international, and he's a really good football player. So again, Juranovic edges it for me, but Ralston is a great understudy, and he's came on leaps and bounds.
Absolutely. There's a few guys in the comments as well. They're coming in and they're mentioning that Juranovic, they agree that obviously Juranovic is a better defender. Maybe Ralston's delivery is better in terms of things like that. Positional sense as well. You mentioned that you trust Juranovic over Ralston in terms of positional sense. Francis, do you agree with the sentiment? No, there's guys coming in and they're saying that Juranovic might even get a few games again at left back, so that Ralston can play if, for whatever reason, Bernabeu or Taylor and they. Do you see that as a possibility?
Only if Taylor and Bernabeu's out injured. I don't think obviously Taylor's performed really, really well last season, and I think obviously after Saturday as well, as much as Bernabeu's came in and you spent nearly $4 million, I would still. I mean, it's quite hard. It's probably no right to judge a guy on one game, but what I've only gone on one seat. I would have to go with Taylor starting at left back now, but I don't think you spend £4 million to then chuck Juranovic at left back. I don't think that says much. It does, like Ange. If Ange's want any backing with the board, you can't be spending nearly $4 million on a left back and play your right back there. So I don't really see. As I say, maybe due to injury suspension, Juranovic might go out there, but I would be surprised if he plays a handful of games there this season.
Totally agree with that.
I don't see how you bring, like I said, you don't spend £4 million to play Juranovic at left back.
No, it's a valid point. I want to touch on the left back position because Bernaby's another player that's coming under a wee bit of scrutiny. Because for some Celtic fans, again, this pre-season seems to be the be on. Like they're gauging everything on these couple of performances, and they don't think Bernaby's really been cutting it. Now, I would agree to an extent, but I mean, this guy's just come from Argentina. He's come to a new country, a new system. And he's still learning the ropes, so to speak, in terms of Ange ball, if you will. But we saw against Blackburn, I thought that was his best game thus far in a Celtic jersey, and he showed his attacking intent. He liked to cut inside, and he had a few shots on goal as well, and he was making himself available with some good runs. Ross, do you think that Bernaby has showed any signs at this stage that he will be the guy to replace Greg Taylor as the number one sort of left back position, or do you think that's still up for debate?
Well, I think at the moment it's Greg Taylor's jersey. I think he's no put a foot wrong. I think I trust him. You all know what I think about Greg Taylor. Well, what's that? Bernaby won't displace Taylor till he's up. Aye, I mean that's a fair point. That's what I was sort of getting to. At the moment, like I say, it's Taylor's jersey, but Bernaby, like Taylor last season, is trying to learn the role. It's completely different, probably, from what he's been used to playing, and that it's an inverted fullback. Not many teams play that way. He likes to get forward, and he certainly looks like he likes to get a shot off. He had a shot on Saturday. But you have to get that sort of happy medium where he has to be able to, he has to understand that he has to do his defensive duties as well. I think he at times forgot that, and like Franny said, he was caught out of position at times, but he needs time. He needs time to learn the role. I mean, Greg Taylor, the first half of the season, he was getting caught up the park for me at times. He was getting caught with the ball over the top. But the second half of the season, I think you've seen that he no perfected it. He was starting to master the role, and he was never really caught out of position. And he had an excellent second half of the season, you have to say. And I think.
Sorry, Ross, but you again. Anybody that's listening to this knows how critical I've been of Greg Taylor, and I even admitted that previously as well. He certainly started to prove me wrong as maybe a doubter. I still don't think he's like Champions League level or that kind of thing. He's good for the SPL, absolutely, and he fits the system. But
similar to Ralston in that sense.
Well, I mean, I suppose it's hard to sort of. Juranovic is certainly, if you're looking at European competition, Juranovic is the one that you're definitely starting. But coming to the SPFL, if Ralston starts, he can cut it. But again, going back to Greg Taylor, I agree that you said that he was coming in the sort of second half of the season, he started to come into his own. But again, I think that's partly because he was adapting to the system and he was starting to get used to it. And I think we're going to see the same with Bernaby. Sorry, continue.
Aye. Well, no, just coming off the back of what you've said there, I think that, again, it goes back to two for each position. And I think that, obviously, I've touched on that Bernaby gets caught up the park a lot, or he has done so far. But you look at Celtic playing at home against, I don't know, but a St Mirren or something, let's say, they're going to have a lot of the ball. St Mirren won't attack Celtic. So you can probably afford to play Bernaby in games like that, where he won't have as much defensive duties to do, but he might be more of a threat going forward than what Greg Taylor would be. Again, it plays the fixture. Greg Taylor might be better in a home Champions League game where we maybe aren't going to have as much of the ball and he's going to have to do a bit more defending. I think at the moment you would trust Greg Taylor to defend his area more than what Bernaby would. But again, it goes back to it. Two players for each position, and two players again that bring different qualities, but again qualities that are going to be good enough in whatever fixture it is. You would hope to do well.
Aye, absolutely. Francis, you anything else you want to add to that? Do you share the sentiments, or is it anything different?
I think Ross has pretty much nailed it on. Like, if we're writing Bernaby off after a few pre-season games, we're as well as chucking it at the net.
But again, that comes down to the fickleness. I mean,
we're all guilty. It's football fans. We're all fickle.
Absolutely.
We're all guilty.
Absolutely. But
Fickle
like I said,
selfish.
who's it that said that earlier?
I seen that earlier, right?
I can't remember, but class.
What a fucking gig it was, man.
Sorry. But on you go, Franny.
I mean, I'm maybe not as critical as you, John, with Taylor, but I was never his biggest fan. But it proved me and many others wrong last season. But you will happily criticise a player all day long if they're proving you wrong. If players are proving us wrong, then Celtic's been successful. So that's one bonus off the back of it. But I think Ange has probably brought Bernabei in to be his number one. But what we've seen for Ange as well is he's not. Whoever's performing is probably going to get the jersey, and it's unfair for me to totally judge Bernabei now as well. I've only seen him that Saturday. I've not seen much of the pre-season friendly games, and so on that basis, I can't it would not be fair for me to judge. But Greg Taylor for me has to have the jersey. Bernabei looked good going forward, looks comfortable on the ball, maybe a lot more comfortable than Taylor, but passing wise, I've always said, Taylor is a terrible crosser of the ball, but a brilliant passer of the ball. Absolute brilliant passer of the ball, but I don't think he's a great crosser of the ball. But defensive wise, you get 100% off him. He's always there, and positioning is great. So yeah, it's for me, it's Greg Taylor's jersey to loss, but I think obviously Bernabei has been bought to be the number one, but it's going to be sort of for the last 6 to 8 months for Greg Taylor. It's his jersey to loss right now.
Yep.
It's healthy competition though, and that's what you want.
Can't have too many good players.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I fully agree. Speaking of competition and not having enough good players, I want to move on to the sort of transfer rumours that are floating about now. Earlier, it came out that Ange had confirmed, I think it was just after the Blackburn game, Ange confirmed that there's 2 signings definitely coming in at some point this week. There's absolutely no reports or anything that are concrete other than this Muir one, which we'll touch on in a minute, that would suggest who these guys are. We can only go off the players that we've been linked with recently. One of them, that Fausto Vera, the Argentinian boy for Argentinos, who we were sort of briefly linked with. He, by all accounts, looks like he's going to cost to the tune of about 6 million, and he's already had, I think we touched on it, we spoke before we came live. There was bids, Corinthians, and who was it, Genk?
I think so.
Already have submitted bids at about 6 million for him, so that seems unlikely. The other guy, and this one's still gaining traction. I think somebody brought it up and they briefly touched on it. They asked Ange about it, and Ange was kind of coy a wee bit, saying he's heard of him, but no, he kind of keep his cards close to his chest. And I want to touch on this one first before we move on. And this is the boy Edouard Michou for PSG, who I'm referring to specifically now. Since that interview with Ange, where he's kind of sort of denied that there's anything in it, whilst no actually saying no outright. Fabrizio Romano, who's obviously we know he's got this thing for tweeting things that 10 to 9 times out of 10 come to fruition. But it's also recently been picked up by Sky Sports, Anthony Joseph, and as well as PSG, who got a prominent Twitter page. I say prominent because I've got like 50,000 followers, but as a French PSG page, who tweeted that. I'll read the translation because I don't fucking speak French, but.
Do you speak Dutch then? Do you speak Dutch then?
No. But it translated to Celtic wants to recruit the young Edouard Michou. The PSG would like to obtain 5 to 6 million and a percentage on capital gain. Negotiations in progress. Now, again, we've said this numerous times as well. There's no smoke without fire, right? You've got Romano's tweeting it, Anthony Joseph, Sky Sports News have picked up, and that PSG fan pages are picking up on it. Is this firstly, Ross, I'll come to you. Knowing what we're seeing, do you think that this Michou might be one of these two, along with Moy, who seems to be absolutely certain? And is it a signing that excites you, or is it one that you want to see happen, or do you think it's all the nonsense?
Is that lad? Is he 19?
He's 19, but I wrote down a couple of stats. He actually made enough 5 or 6 appearances last season for the PSG first team, which, as we know, is absolutely stacked. So any player who's able to break into that team and get that many appearances as a starter, might I add, is certainly got something about them, right? It was enough to get him a League One medal, a winner's medal. He's also the youngest ever player in PSG's history to assist in a goal. He broke Mbappe's record. And he seems to be highly rated and likened to a certain Verratti, who, as we know, is another guy who's no great in stature. He seems to be quite, but what a player he is. Is it something that excites you, or do you believe it? Do you think it's something that's kind of we're keeping close to our chest at the minute?
Well, I'm not saying I don't believe it. There's obviously some sort of traction with it, but I'll believe it if and when he comes in. Do you know what I mean? But I'll look at it. Did you say that they're wanting 5 or 6 million for him?
Euros. So I think what's that equates to like 4 million.
Well, on the face of that, if he is coming in as a sort of central defensive midfielder, I know he's no big in stature, but he's 19. So, I mean, he has had a couple of appearances, like you say. He must have something about him. He's at PSG anyway, regardless. You look at Edouard, we got him in as a youngster for PSG, and look what he done. But it could be, he could be one of the two, and he could be this guy that can come in. He might need a year at 19 just to settle in, and he might be too raw to go into the Champions League. And then you look at if Armoy is going to be the other guy to come in. He's 31. It's costing him nothing. Maybe Armoy will come in for a year or two to do the role that they're wanting Miku or Michu, or however you say it, to eventually do. But you've got the opportunity to bring a guy in with experience for no money. Do you know what I mean? It's going to cost us nothing. It gives you that. What's he mumping?
He's talking absolutely, making absolute contrast. I don't know how actual stats equate to Twitter rumours, but Stephen, you're getting your balls punched.
It could be that Moyes brought in as that sort of player for a couple of seasons, maybe even a season. I don't know, just for to let this laddie. And I'm only speculating here because the guy might not come in, but just to allow him to settle in and even learn off him, Moy. Because for me, I know you've not asked me about Moy, but I'm going to talk about him. I think that I mean, I've not seen him playing since he was at Huddersfield, but Huddersfield were like, I think the season I don't know if he was there for 2 seasons. Certainly the first season they came into the league, I think they stayed in the league quite comfortably, and it was a lot to do with Armoy. He retains the ball very well. He doesn't give it away much at all. He doesn't try anything fancy with passes. It's all short passes and that, and he's good for a goal. Is he a central defensive midfielder? I don't know, but 31-year-old for me, I think he can play the sort of role that McGregor's playing at the minute. And 31 for me, James Forrest 31. I think he can still play a part in the squad. 31 nowadays is no old for a football player. And if you're getting him for nothing, I think Ange knows him really well. I just think it makes sense. He was rumoured last year. I thought it made sense then. A year down the line, and again, I've not seen him playing recently. But if I'm only going off of what I've seen, I think it would be a very decent bit of business.
Fantastic.
And again, if he brings this PSG guy in, he could help that laddie settle in, and the laddie could learn off him, because it sounds like they might be similar players.
No, I mean, like you say, I'll touch on your Moy comments in just a minute. Franny, just regarding this Edouard Michu rumours, I mean, there's people in the chat here, they're going absolutely mental again, talking about how it's all rumours, it's a load of pish. Ange has already said no. Again, I'm just fucking relaying information that I've read that's happened since that interview. Calm down. What's your opinion on it? Like, do you think it's maybe some? And again, I want to reiterate this, right? Ange, we know Ange, and Ange is quite dry with the media. Ange has turned around, he's been asked about him, and he said that he knows who he is, he's aware, right? So if you're looking at it kind of objectively, you're saying, right, so you're aware of who he is, so you've looked at him or you've watched him, so there's definitely something in it in that respect. Now, he said no, listen, there's this, that, and the next thing. But as we know, Ange is one of these guys who like to fucking give the media a wee pull and twist. And they're like, you don't know what Ange is thinking, right? And he might be keeping his cards close to his chest. He's probably getting, again, the media are going to come at him with 100 different fucking things. Is this true? Is this true? Is this true? And listen, if nothing's out of the line yet, he's not going to say anything to the contrary. So if there's still negotiations ongoing, they're still in talks, and there's nothing for certain, then why would he confirm it? Oh, we're definitely in a position where this agreement is extra, so to speak. At least in my opinion, I think that's the kind of guy Ange is. Franny, just going back to that, what's your opinion on the whole Michu thing? As I said, because since that interview with Ange, these rumours have continued to gain pace. They're still gathering momentum.
I don't know. I mean, I'm a wee bit of sucker and fall for the rumours and get involved and base a sort of argument on the back it. But if anything, Ange has shown us that it's, like you say, plays his cards close to his chest. Most football clubs will do that. It's, I mean, not being privy to how a transfer works, but they tend to not really say who they're after because they probably not want other players at Celtic are after. There will be plenty of other clubs probably looking at that. They players, so
Rangers being one of them, they do it.
You probably try and do your business a wee bit quietly in the background to try and get, because you're obviously trying to get the best deal for you at Celtic. You're not wanting to essentially get in a bidding war for anybody. And Ange's always said that he's not going to convince somebody to come here. Somebody's got to want to come here. So it's like you rarely get a manager coming in and going, "Aye, we're in for him. Hopefully they'll be in by the end of the week." It's just not the way football works. They don't do it. So that there probably is something in the Michu one. It's maybe a player we looked at similarly like the Bhoys Sousa apparently we're looking at. It's maybe an old rumour and it's just now surfacing now that we're maybe not going for him. So it's now getting leaked to the media to maybe, I don't know, it could be maybe just a wee want to throw them off the scent while we try and get other deals over the line and stuff. So if we're it, we'll never really know. Like you said, John, I'll like to fall into the trap and get involved in all these Twitter rumours and stuff, but I'm trying to drag myself away from it because, like Postecoglou Celts, they just look at deals like Kyogo and stuff like that. He's one for pulling things out the blue and stuff, and managers just tend to not really name targets really.
John's zoned it.
I know. Everybody's looking at the comments and not listening.
No, sorry, I was trying. The comments were moving rapid there. I couldn't click on the one I wanted to bring up. So, like John Coyle saying here as well, Ange won't comment on signings until they're done, and I fully agree with that. And any questions he's asked about potential, especially Ange, we know what he's like, and I don't think he's just going to come out right and say right off the bat, "No, we're not doing anything." He's not going to give the media anything at this point until he knows for absolute certain. So, in that respect, I still think there might be some going on, but again, we don't know.
I was actually surprised that he even came out and said that would be put in the door this week. What if something that's not like him? Something goes wrong. Do you know what I mean? He's going to look a bit egg on his face, but he must be very confident that they're done.
Yep. And this another one that's just came out today. This Moritz Jens. I don't know anything about him. 23-year-old centre back Lorient is another one. There's people saying it's already done. It's already out of the line. I've only just heard about it before we came on the show tonight. So that's neither here nor there. But the big talking point of the day.
No, I talk about that, John.
No, I mean we don't know anything about him. It's literally just came out.
Because we know hunters about Michu, don't we?
It doesn't suit the narrative. He's wanting to talk about Michu at length because he thinks Moyes shite.
No. Listen, I'll say this right. The difference is with Michu is
a little bit good.
the difference with Michu is it's been reported by two prominent people within the transfer sort of sphere, as well as other reputable sources. So Sky Sports News have mentioned it, and then you've got other places like PSG's own fan pages mentioning it. So it sort of gives it weight, right? A tweet off somebody on Twitter who's got a couple of hundred followers and who's, as William says, cousin, dad's, dog's, mother's, and he's knows somebody at the club says such and such is going to sign. There's no point in really talking about it until there's some sort of weight or momentum behind it. But I want to talk about the whole Aaron Moy thing because Twitter today has been an absolute meltdown. We've seen Celtic fans attack one another over it because you're not allowed an opinion at this day and age, it seems. If you don't agree with the status quo, you're this, that, and the other, and people getting threats made against them, and that is absolute fucking nonsense. And if you're one of these people, jog on because we're not interested. But what I will say is this, right? Ross, I want to come to you first because you've already touched on Moy and you made some valid points, and I'm not going to argue them because I don't know too much about him other than a brief stint he had in England with Huddersfield, as you mentioned, and then he moved to Brighton. Last year, when we were linked to him, we looked into him like we do with anybody who's been linked to the club. And we sort of develop opinions based on stuff that we're hearing or stuff that we're seeing, videos that we've seen. We're all fans of going on YouTube and looking at highlights or the best moments of people's careers. And listen, if you look at the fact that he's played 50 games for Australia, he's certainly got the experience. But I want to touch on the age thing. You mentioned the 31 isn't old by any means, right? He's still about fucking 7-8 years younger than us.
Right.
And so he's not old. Let's get that out of the way. But in terms of footballing, though, that's the sort of twilight end of your career. That's the latter end of a footballer's career. Very rarely you see players, especially in that sort of role, extend their career beyond maybe 34, 35, unless they're absolute special cases.
Scott Brown played his best football
probably
at 31 under the right manager.
I'm not saying that it's not possible. It is in special cases, these things can happen. It's hard though to base an opinion just because. Listen, we all love Ange, right? I love Ange. I think he's a breath of fresh air. He's been absolutely incredible, and I trust fully. If he decides that this is a guy to take us forward and he's going to strengthen the team, then fine. But he's not susceptible to criticism. He's no void.
No.
We as fans are still allowed to ask questions, and for
Absolutely.
me, and I'm going to raise one about the whole Moy thing, right? Because as I said, Celtic fans are split down the middle. Some are saying, how can you say somebody with 50 international caps who's played in the English Premier League isn't good enough? I was like, there's hundreds of players that play in the English Premier League that aren't good enough, let's be honest. Secondly, it's like, let's look at his career since he was at Huddersfield, right? He had a decent stint at Huddersfield. He then moved to Brighton and Hove Albion. And it wasn't great. He got an injury. He tore ligaments in his knee. And ever since that injury, he's moved from Brighton and Hove Albion to the Chinese League. And listen, in the past 3 years, he's less than 50 games, right? He's not holding down a starting place.
Like there was a pandemic in that 3 years, Johnny.
But the last 2 seasons with Shanghai, since they've come out of the pandemic, he's still no. Listen, players, teams were still playing behind closed doors, and he's not been holding down.
Did it not start in China?
He had 12 games last season for Shanghai.
How many games did they play though?
I suspect it's more than 12, Francis. They had the first
you're the guy that usually likes talking about facts and backing facts up with stats.
And I've looked it up before I came on.
Well,
right?
How many games did they play?
I can't remember how many games they played specifically, but he played 12.
Up then, could you?
Right, you want to go and date it now?
No.
Listen, the point I'm making is he's been based on what I've seen and what I've read, he's been unable to hold down a starting position at Shanghai in China, right?
Based on a one.
Well, no, the last 2 years since he's been there, he's barely featured. So,
but nobody's saying Aaron Moy is going to be a starter, starter.
I'm not. No, I don't think he's going to be a starter either. And listen, I'm not basing this on anything. I'm just bringing this information to you so we can discuss it, right? People are saying he's experienced, he's played in England, he's done this, that, and the next thing for the past 3 years, he's not done much, right? And this is just a point I'm trying to make. And if you look at his assist ratio as well, in the past 3 years been poor. His goal ratio in the past 3 years been poor. He's 31 and he's coming to a team now to play under a system that's very high intensity. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say he's not capable because, again, he might be. I'm only asking the question and bringing up these points so that it's something that you can think about and debate about. He was also coming off the back of 53 grand a week. Now, he's definitely taking a wage cut coming to Celtic. Let's be honest. We're not paying anywhere near 53 grand. You were lucky if we're paying 30. So he's taking a significant pay cut and he's coming in on a free. So you're sort of saving money in that respect. But do you think that it's good business bringing him in. And remember, it could be in a very similar situation as McCarthy, Ross.
Well, good business for me, aye, because we're no, there's no outlay. Okay, we're having to pay him a wage. You have to obviously do that, but there's no outlay to bring him in. I think you look at, you've made some good points there. Like, he hasn't played a lot of football. We get that. He's had a knee injury. We've seen what's happened with Julian. Do you know what I mean? It takes a while to come back for that. That could be why he's not played as many games as well. I don't know what his fitness levels are like, but again, like the season before last, when Lennon was there, people were quite happy. Not me personally, but people were quite happy for Tom Rogic to go. He was on the verge of going. The right manager comes in. He knows him. Rogic knows him. They build up a relationship, and he has the season that he had. Ange knows Moy well. He knows how he's managed him. He'll know how to treat him. He'll know a lot about him fitness-wise. He'll know how to use him. I don't think Aaron Moy's going to play every single game for Celtic if he comes in, but you need that level of experience. I think you're looking at it. We're talking about can Ideguchi be that guy? I don't want a Can. Do you know what I mean? I want somebody to come in and do the job. There's McCarthy. Again, it's can he do it this season? He's not done it so far. I think Aaron Moy has, for me, I think watching McCarthy down in England and watching Aaron Moy and the stint he had at Huddersfield, I think he looked a better player than McCarthy did, in my opinion. I might be wrong in that, but for me, I think you need that element of experience in the team, as well as all the young, keen guys that we've got in the squad. And I think Moy, well, it's similar to McCarthy. Somebody's saying there, it could end up like that. But for me, I think it'll be different in that Ange knows Moy better than he knows McCarthy. I think the McCarthy signing was Ange didn't want McCarthy, but it was a body. He needed bodies in the door at that stage just to get us through that first half of the season. It was another option. Let's just get him in the door because I need help. I need help in the squad because it was full of youth. Yep. But for me, I think Aaron Moy can come in and do a job for Celtic, and I think he's got a goal in him as well. I honestly think it'll be a very decent signing, and a decent signing it's more to bulk out the squad, if you like. And I know we're stacked in the middle of the park, but I go back to Ideguchi he hasn't done it so far. McCarthy, you have to say, hasn't done it so far. So he's bringing Moy in. He knows him. He knows what he can do. He knows what he can bring to the table. And I think, for me, if you're getting that for nothing, it's a no-brainer.
Absolutely. And somebody else has made a valid point as well. Not only is it a free transfer, but it is only a 1 year with an optional extension on Celtic's part. And you're right. And listen, I'll fully agree with you. Like I said earlier, I don't know what he's going to perform like, and I trust Ange. And if he brings anybody in, he's going to get my backing 100%. Do I think that he's adding any real quality to the team personally, based on what we've already got? No. He's another player in an already stacked position that he's adding an element of depth. Ange does know him because he managed him when he was the Australian manager. But again, it remains to be seen, because how many players, and I don't want the comments as well about I've seen people who's mentioned the fact that he's a free being unacceptable. We've paid $6 million for a defender and he's been absolutely shite. We've paid. Did you like that? Did you get that?
I did.
But I mean,
it wasn't enough for a laugh, but it was.
I wrote that one, didn't I? I was working on that. Nah, but I mean, like, what I'm saying is, the fee doesn't mean anything. We paid what, 700,000, or was it even less than that for Larson, Moravchik as well? A fee doesn't.
Didn't cost much.
Doesn't
exactly.
It doesn't mean nothing. The price tag.
It means nothing. So the fact
look
that he's a
fucking $5 million for a Yeti, tatty laddie.
Exactly. Free means nothing.
Man Barkas as well.
Aye. So in that respect, bringing a player in for free who's going to add to the depth, I don't think, as I said, he's not going to improve the squad. He's certainly not a starter in that respect. For me, he's no strengthening the team the way that I personally, as a fan, wanting to see it strengthened, because I feel that sort of holding midfield role, that centre defensive midfield anchor, is a position that we could really do with strengthening. Somebody who can come in immediately and push for our first team place. That for me, Moyes not that guy for me.
Like a 19-year-old absolute superhero. Yeah, I get what you're saying, man.
Listen, I'm not saying he's the guy either, but he's got a far bigger ceiling than Moy. Moy's 31. He's not going to, in 2 years' time, let's say he plays well this year, he gets his optional contract extension, and then we decide we're going to keep him. We're not a stepping stone to a bigger thing. We're not going to get resale value off him. That's too much. Whereas a boy like Michu is a complete opposite. He's 19. He's already getting thing. But if he comes in and does a job, his value skyrockets in the business.
But you need that.
No, I know.
You need
exactly.
that balance.
You don't know what's going to happen with any player that comes into the club. Mm-hmm. But I just coming to you, Franny, quickly. Not quickly, but you go into as much detail as you fucking. I don't care. But on the Moy scenario, what's your thoughts on it?
I heard you say that, like, Ange isn't beyond criticism. I forgot to criticise Ange before a guy's even stepped foot in the door again. But I mean, come on now, that's just silly chat.
Just before you continue, I agree. I don't think it's right to be criticising anybody, be it the manager or the player. But I think you're allowed to ask a question as to why we're pursuing this guy in place of maybe, and again, we don't know what's going to happen. We might still sign another player in that position. But why? You're allowed to ask the question. I get like I said, absolutely no manager in any club is like void of criticism.
I know, but you can't criticise a manager when a guy's not even signed for us yet. I mean, that's just
no. I just said I agreed with that. I'm just saying that doesn't. I mean, if Moy comes in and doesn't feature at all, or he does feature, he gets injured, and then that's him, or he does feature and he's shite, and that's him. Are fans then allowed to say, "Told you so"? I don't think that was the right thing to do.
If he's shite, you can criticise him. You can't criticise him if he comes in and gets injured.
No, I fully agree.
That's what he gets injured.
I mean, no, but it's signing a player with somebody who's got an injury history, and especially one that's related to a cruciate ligament, or is a risk for any player or any manager. But anyway, just continue what you're saying.
Well, I think I'm neither here nor there with the Moy one. I think he's suffering a wee bit because, like we've just talked, he's suffering because he's a free. I think that's blinking at a few folks. He's suffering because his name's is no fancy like Michu. He's not got a fancy name. I think that's maybe if you could look a wee bit down it. He was a really good player at Huddersfield. He's maybe went to Brighton, done okay. He's maybe went and chased the money in China like a lot of players done. It's maybe just not worked out from his family's obviously. I believe his wife's from Scotland and stuff, so his family's here. So he's maybe just looking for his last real contract at a big club. So I'm not against the move because, like we say, Ange's coached him. We've obviously brought that guy in from Benfica, the analytics boy. So these guys will have a big say on whether guys like Moy, guys like Michu, if these guys are going to fit into the system. So they're not just buying guys for the sake of buying guys this season. I believe they will be looking at the guys' numbers and looking if they'll fit into the system. Obviously, Ange does know him. It's just one of these ones. I thought, like, even you were getting, you seem to be getting more excited over a 19-year-old lad than a guy at 31 that's proven he can do it at international level. I'm not against it. Will I be overexcited when he comes in? I don't think so. But I think that's just me not getting excited because it's not a fancy name. Personally, it's not a fancy name. I'm a wee bit of a sucker for getting excited there. A random guy that I've never heard of, but he's got a fancy name. But Aaron Moy, I think, it's a player Ange knows. I believe he will do a job. I think he strengthens the squad. He's a good player, definitely a good player. So that strengthens the squad. Not necessarily strengthen the first 11, but if you're strengthening the squad, it's a good sign. It's a free. It's 1 year. I don't believe he'll be on really high wages. So for me, it's a bit of a no-brainer. In a way, because it's a guy that I keep going on. It's a guy that Ange knows, a guy he can trust. It's a risk because he's injury. He's not played a lot, but I think I don't get why so many fans are against it. As I say, I'm kind of sort of on the fence with it, but I'm more sort of leaning to, I get him in. It's more, like Ross said, it's got a McCarthy type. You could argue it's got a McCarthy type vibe, but there's no way McCarthy was a player Ange picked, whereas Moy is totally different.
He's a better footballer than McCarthy.
Aye.
Technically better.
Baldy as well.
He's got a goal in him, man.
Roll it back, Scott Brown.
I'm wrong with the Baldy's kid. He's got a goal in him. Mm-hmm. And by the way, in fact, I think we touched on that earlier. Maybe I can't mind it's Byron. I don't know. I think somebody had said that he is a dead ball specialist.
Somebody mentioned it,
but actually, based on popped into my head again, I think he maybe is, but I'm not sure.
I'm not convinced again. But I'm looking at the last 3-4 so many years.
But like Brighton and Huddersfield probably only getting many free kicks, if that makes sense. They'll not be attacking a lot, so to speak.
But if you're a specialist, your return name, to be called a specialist, you'd have to have a return name, is what I'm saying.
When he says he's a specialist, but he's maybe got
had 10 free kicks and scored 10 of them. But they could have respect, like Huddersfield will not be attacking for 90 minutes a game.
But if you go by the championship is above SPFL level according to people. In EPL when he played at Brighton in EPL as well. So
he played in the English Premier League at Huddersfield.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. But I think, as I said, it seems to have just really divided. I personally would much rather see us bring in somebody who a wee bit younger and who's got ceiling and fair business standpoint as well, makes sense in terms of his future prospects. No somebody who's coming off the back of a knee injury. Etc.
His work rate is quality as well, by the way. I'm only going off again what I seen him at Huddersfield, and his work rate is quality.
But this is it. You're basing an opinion on how you seen him 5 years ago, which is fine.
But
your want is to sign a guy like Michu on 5 games that you've never seen one in play.
Francis, that's not what I said. I said Michu. The difference between Michu and Moy is Michu's 19. Moy's 31. In terms of footballing years, Michu's got a much longer career ahead of him and a much higher ceiling.
Of course he has.
Moy's peaked. Moy's no gone. Like Moy, for me, he's already peaked, and he's either going to stay at this sort of level, and he's going to be in a decline. If you go off his past 3 seasons, he looks like he's on a decline. Ange might be the guy to bring him back to his best. We don't know, but if you're basing it on what we do know and the fact that he's not really featured, then you have to ask, well, is he going to be the right fit? Is what I'm saying. The difference with Michu, as I said, though, is he's a young guy. He's getting likened to an absolute world-class player. He's playing and he's getting games in quite possibly one of the best teams on the planet and absolutely stacked with talent, and he's fighting for a place and he's getting games. And you're getting him for, let's say...
fighting for a place.
I didn't like the fact that he's linked to Verratti. Fair enough. Like
it's still
that
very
might be the case. But I mean, people can be likened. Do you know what I mean? Simon Donnelly was likened to Kenny Dalglish. He was the next Kenny Dalglish. Simon Donnelly was all right. He done a good job for Celtic.
I love Simon.
But he never became the next Kenny Dalglish by any stretch of the imagination.
No, absolutely not.
Aaron Moy. I'm not saying Aaron Moy is. It's evident he's no got as much to give in a sense of a career, but you need that level of experience as well. And again, I'm going back to his Huddersfield days because that's all I know. He was a huge part of why Huddersfield stayed in the league that year. He was outstanding.
Well, as I said, it remains to be seen. Any player that comes in, I'll get my backing regardless. I'm not particularly excited by it personally.
I'm not saying I'm excited, John, but I just think I think some folks' reasoning for not liking him is a bit poor. Like picking a 19-year-old over a 31-year-old just because of age, I think is.
It's not just age. It's ceiling. It's his potential. It's the business aspect to it as well. There's a lot of things taken into consideration. Where
so would you say signing Giacomakis at 26-year-old in a 5-year contract is a business deal?
It makes sense. I mean, he's just come off the back of being the top goal scorer in one of the top leagues.
You're signing him for the long term till he's like 30, 31 and
Aye, but is he going to stay for us that full 5 years? Who knows?
Hopefully.
If he doesn't, and he performs well, what we paid for him compared to what we can get back out of him is going to be significantly different. And again,
well, if you sell
he's still
Aaron Moy, you're making money on him.
26.
He's coming in for nothing though.
Aye, this is what I said
Aaron
earlier as well.
Aaron Moy will not be sold. He'll either be let go at the end of the year's contract, or he'll get another year. That's it, and then he might go after that. He won't be sold, but we're not putting an outlay on him to get him in. So it doesn't really matter.
I said that, but aye. Anyway, moving on, Franny. You're fucking at it.
He's poking you the night. He's poking the bear.
He's got to go to bed again. For my bed again. Just drop one in and go to bed.
No, you know I riced it. So moving on for the sort of transfer rumours, right? Obviously we've got another exciting game coming up on Wednesday, where Celtic obviously travel over to Poland for Boruc's farewell, where they handpicked Celtic to play Legia Warsaw. It looks like their ticket issues been sorted, so that is, I think it's expected at this point to be absolutely packed. So that I think the atmosphere and that's going to be incredible. And again, it's looking like a proper friendly. It's a way of saying bye to one of Celtic's greatest keepers, and an icon for both clubs. What are you looking forward to that game? Do you think we're going to treat it competitively, or do you think it's going to be like just sort of a proper friendly, like one of these sort of testimonial type of games?
I don't know. I honestly don't know if it'll be. It's hard to tell. I think it might be more. But I honestly don't know, John, because I think Ange might treat it more competitive than Legia might treat it. They'll maybe treat it more as a testimonial. I've maybe just read it. I don't know. Is Boruc maybe playing this like a second half for Celtic or something? I might have just randomly.
He might. I mean, it might do just to get a wee show in a.
Aye, but I mean that could just be somebody making shot. But I think
wouldn't be the first time. I mean, we've seen it in the past, so I mean,
think Celtic
it's
will
possible.
put a fairly strong squad, but and again they'll treat it more as preparation for Aberdeen, whereas I don't know where, similar to Blackburn, I don't know where Legia are in their pre-season when their season kicks off, so how they treat it is no my interest really, I'll be honest.
And in terms of, do you think it's going to be like a sort of experimental lineup, or do you think Ange is going to go with a strong team off the bat?
I think it'll be a strong team. I think maybe Seagrass might start just and maybe Hart come on, but I think in the main it'll be a strong team.
Fair enough. What about yourself, Ross? Is that a game you're looking forward to? Do you think we're going to come out swinging, or do you think it's going to be a quite light-hearted affair?
I mean, it's a friendly. What kind of fucking question's that? Like, fucking, it's a fucking friendly. They're going to play it like a fucking friendly. What you want me to say?
Is this you taking the piss out of me?
I'm only joking. I think it'll just be what it is. No, I mean, it'll be it will be a friendly affair because it's for Boruc. And if what you've said there is true, that he's going to play at the second half for Celtic or whatever, there's going to be a laugh and a joke. It's going to be a sort of carnival atmosphere for a legend, Legia Warsaw and Celtic for me. And we're there to celebrate Boruc's career, essentially. But again, it's another game. We're getting closer to the start of the season. I think you'll probably find that the lineup will be fairly similar to what it was on Saturday. But again, I think that you'll find that the Norwich game will have a bit more needle, a bit more competitive edge to it. Purely down to the fact that it's a Scottish and English team more than anything else. But I think you'll find that it will be a more sort of carnival atmosphere, light-hearted affair against Legia.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I really do hope we get to see Boruc donning the Celtic keeper's top one last time before he hands it up, because he was absolutely one of my favourite Celtic players. So just coming
the best goalkeeper in Celtic's history for us anyway.
I would agree with that.
Celtic's best goalkeeper in our lifetime.
Aye, great up there, right?
Absolutely. So just quickly then, coming to yourself, Francis, have you got a prediction?
I'm going to have to go Seagrest and goals in, and then I think Juranovic will start. Obviously, he came for them. Taylor, I would start. And I think it's got to be CCV and Welsh. It seems like Welsh has got the nod. Callum McGregor, because he just always plays. Hatate, because I think I've seen pictures of him training. And then maybe Turnbull playing as well. And then up front, probably Maeda, maybe Jack. Well, I'd probably say Kyle, because obviously Giakoumakis is just and might be getting some extra time off instead of flying away over to Poland. Maybe just get time to stay at home and stuff.
Breastfeeding and that.
I can. By the way, not get much at the apex, man. You'll need to be sucking. Man. And maybe James Forrest starting on the right. And I think I would say maybe a 3-1 victory us, but then if Boruc is, if what I've read at one point is true, that Boruc is going in, it could just be one of the silly free draws or whatever, or maybe they'll Legia win or something, they'll get a wee Rangers penalty just to make sure they win the game. Just because it's obviously testimonial and that.
Aye. What about yourself, Ross?
I think it'll probably be Hart and goals. Juranovic, Taylor, CCV. I'd like to see Julian start, but I think it'll probably be Welsh. McGregor, I think maybe possibly Hatate, like Franny says. If not Hatate, then Turnbull and O'Reilly. I think. Who else is it? I think O'Reilly and McGregor will certainly start. It'll be between Hatate and Turnbull, and then Maeda on the left, possibly Forrest on the right, maybe Jota. It's a friendly in it, and then Kyle go up front. I think, like Franny says, Giakoumakis will still be probably getting a wee bit more time off. He'll be on the paternity leave. But score prediction. I don't know. 5-3 to Celtic.
Or if you're Sean, over 7.5 goals.
Well, that's 8 for me. So that'll do.
Aye. Listen, boys, it's been an absolutely fantastic chat. I think we've went over a little bit. So for everybody who's stuck by for the past hour and so ever many minutes, thank you. Appreciate it. Always appreciate you guys coming and spending your nights with us. I know the Boise bus has already started and you're 25 minutes late catching the bus. So again, appreciate you coming and spending time with us. And again, massive thanks to everybody in the comments, Franny, Ross, for the discussion. And again, if you've not already, if you're just tuning in, you know, in the comments or whatever the case may be, like, subscribe to the page. If you do like the content we're putting out, there's also an option to become a member. You get a wee icon next to your name at 99p a month. It's just something to help put back into the podcast so we can get people better like Stephen, a better web camera and stuff like that. Just so we can continue. Tony better, exactly. Just so that we can continue to put out the best content we can. And again, absolutely love the discussion and love spending time talking about Celtic with you lot. Anything you want to add before we go?
Just to let everybody know that I've got sweat on my sweat.
I'm going for a shower.
Go on, man.
That's me. Appreciate it, guys. But thanks, and everybody else as well. Enjoy the rest of your night. Hail, hail.